Okay, today I want to talk a little bit about electric and lighting, specifically lighting. I think it's one of those things that it's definitely not a high priority on the fireground, but it is an important aspect of the fireground. And I think probably today a lot of people don't realize how important it is. Today trucks have a big, and we'll talk about those later, big scene lights. So when you pull up, you have, most ladders have two 1500 watt quartz lights on the side. So when you pull up, the fireground's pretty well lit up. Back in the 60s and 70s, we didn't have all those things. There was no scene lights on the apparatus. We had two 12-volt spotlights mounted to the cab, and the officer would generally direct one of those spotlights right at a window, like an upper floor window, and we used that on the inside to help find the windows. We carried four portable lights like we have here, but they were 150 watt spotlights. So when we had a fire at night, we were operating in the dark mostly. We didn't have the really good flashlights that we do today. We carry one portable light on ladder one that it probably puts out more lumens of light by itself than all of our stuff we had in the early 70s added together. So we've made a lot of inroads in lighting. So I'm going to talk about lighting a little bit. It's not one of those sexy things in the fireground. It's not like vent enter search. It's not like forcible entry that everybody is studying hard, and rightfully so. You're probably never going to win a Medal of Valor for doing a good job lighting. But I do believe, and you'll never know this for sure, but you might prevent one of your brother firefighters from breaking an ankle. You may help guide one of your brother firefighters who's lost in a fire, and that's all he sees is a light at the door or a light at a window, and guide him back to get orientated again. So it has a place on the fireground. And what I find when I go around teaching a lot, that I think since it's not one of those real cool things in firefighting, nobody has a plan. Nobody has a plan. So I'm going to kind of talk about some things to think about to make lighting simpler and make it more expedient. And you can buy into it or not, or maybe you already have your own plan that works well for you, and that's good. First, I kind of want to talk about wire size. Generally what we've done with most trucks, we have a cord reel on most ladder trucks. And that cord reel usually has anywhere from 150 to 200 foot of wire on it. And most places spec a heavy cord line on it, cord wire. If we think electricity like water, we're going to be talking about resistance, and that is the same thing as friction loss. So the bigger the wire size, the less friction loss or resistance they're going to be. So generally we're come off the cord reel with a 10-4 wire, and that's like a 5-inch hose. It has less resistance, and the 10 means, the 4 means we're coming out with two 110 watt lines, so we're bringing out 220. And when we have 220 volts, we have less resistance in 220. So we're getting more electric out to this box, the end user. So it cuts down on resistance by going to a heavier wire. Generally what we do, we break down from there to a little lighter wire, which is 12-3. It's a grounded wire, and it's a little heavier, but not as heavy as the 10-4, and this is for 110. So we go down to it. You'll find this wire in different, you can buy it different ways. This is pretty thin insulation on this, but it's a 12-3 wire. This one's an older one. You can see how much thicker the insulation is on it. It's fine. It's durable. It doesn't cut as easy. It's a little thicker, but it is a little harder to put back in to coil up. This coils up pretty well. And then what we do, we break down on our lights. We break it down even a little farther. Here we have a 14-2 wire. It's just a lightweight wire, and we do that only because we carry about 25 or 30 feet of cord right on this light, and it's laying there. So we want something that's kind of thin, light, and easy to wrap up, and we can just put it right with our light. And we'll talk about that in a second, how our game plan works. A couple other things. Most wire that I think is used in the fire service today is a Hubble connection. Connection is 3 prongs, and usually there's one that's odd, and on this one it turns in. This is a 15 amp plug. I think most people today are buying trucks with a 20 amp plug. And the only difference is there's one odd one, but that little notch right there turns out on a 20 amp. So that's something to kind of look. And if you have a mixture of both, which we're starting to get because we're converting over completely to 20 amp, you got to make sure of that, because a 15 amp and a 20 amp will not connect together. Some of the things we've done to improve the fire grounds, at night you got your gloves on. All this stuff seems simple when we're standing here when there's not an emergency. We've painted orange lines that line up with the odd connection. So at night you just look down, you find the orange lines, line them up, turn them, and you're connected. That's a little tip, and some of you may already be doing that, but it does kind of help. We've been doing this for 40 years, and it's actually worked pretty well. We used to carry our electric cords wrapped like a rope, where you coiled it this way and then like this, and we go to a fire, it just would not uncoil. So we come up with these bags. They're open at both ends. They kind of have a reinforcement here and drawstrings on them. And we just lay our cord. We take a little extra time, non-emergency time, to make it faster when we have emergency time. We just coil the wire in like that. We loop it in there. When you get to a fire, you just set this bag wherever you want it. You can either run the bag in the window or set it on the ground. Generally, if the guy's really, I don't like to keep it real tight like that on the truck. I usually loosen it up a little bit, then pull this little notch down so that even if they forget, it'll come out of there. You're better off when you set it to just open this up, go like that, and the cord will come right out of the bag. Makes a real quick way to deploy electric cords. So those are a couple of things we do there. Most fire companies will carry adapters. Here we have a house adapter. It is a 3-prong grounded plug that we can put right in somebody's house service or commercial business service, and it has a Hubble plug on the other end, so that we can hook into the house circuit and then run our fans or our lights off their current. I think most houses wall plugs will be 15 amp, probably not enough for our fans, but it's fine for our lights. Commercial, I believe, is 20 amp, and it'll probably run a fan. So we have these adapters. Then we have one going the other way. We have our Hubble connection going to a house plug. And where we'd use that would be like if you're running a Sawzall or a drill, we just plug into our electric, but that drill or Sawzall has a regular plug on it, so we got an adapter. So with that in mind, it's a good idea to label your adapter somehow. We did it by, we have yellow wire is the house to our Hubble. The black wires are our Hubble to house. So little things like that, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but you go to a fire and you got a food on the stove on the 5th floor, and somebody brings up a fan and you want to plug it into there so you don't have to stretch our electric all the way up to the 4th floor. Well, you need the right adapter. So if they come up with our Hubble to house, this one, it's going to be the wrong plug. So labeling them somehow, you might just take electric tape and maybe put a red circle around a house to Hubble and then a blue circle around Hubble to house. So that's a good idea to make them easily identifiable on your adapters. But those, we carry several of these. Another good little tactic is the house, the Hubble. If you have like a 12-inch or 16-inch box fan, which we use a lot, we'll take either a wire tie or a little piece of rope, and we're actually tie this right on. We carry our fan with like a 25-foot cord coiled right up on top of the box fan, and then this will be up there. It'll be plugged in or just hanging there. So when we go in on food on the stove or a mattress fire on the 4th floor, we carry that fan up. We already have 25 foot of cord there, and we have the adapter there also. We don't even have to think about it. So we go up, plug into the house circuit, pull off 25 feet, set the fan where it needs to go, and we're in business. So some little tricks like that, I think they help you. Now I'm going to talk about lights a little bit. We use these a lot. Now I don't know about you guys, but you know, once a fire's knocked down, or even while we're fighting the fire, we're putting lights in there. And then obviously during the overhaul, if it's a serious fire, we've probably killed the power on the house, and we're going to be in there for a couple hours. Arson's coming to investigate, so we need light. So we carry 4 to 5 of these type of lights on our ladder. We've been speccing them. These are 500 watt quartz lights, but one of the things we do is we spec them with an outlet on the side of them. right here. And we do that so we can connect several lights together, and it saves us a lot of cord. So for every light, we don't have to bring in a separate cord for them. So we spec them like that, and I'm going to show you how that all works out here in a second. And we have an on-off switch on them, so we spec that. We usually have a little direct hardwired in the back. It just makes it simpler with less things to come unplugged. Now here's another little light that's kind of handy. It has a little, Akron makes this, a little built-in cord reel. It's got 80 foot of cord on it. It is actually a 12-3 wire. There's a junction box here in the front that you can take extra. You can run this light, plug another one of our lights in. You can string some lights out like in a commercial establishment. You know, you might be in a warehouse, and in the back, and you could be 200, 300 feet from your truck. Real easy. Our cord reels aren't going to reach. So we're using the power that the building has. So this is a handy little light for that also. The plug on it is a regular house plug. So we carry our Hubble adapter right on it if we need to use this with our electric. So again, another handy little light, gives you some options. You can move it around 80 feet. You can hook other lights right into it, or a fan, whatever. So just some of the different things we have to make the job a little easier and things flow a little bit better.